Los Angeles is about to make history. For the third time, this city will host the Olympic Games. But this time, they're attempting something no other host city has ever pulled off: a profitable Olympics in 2028. Yeah, profitable. Considering that every Olympics since 1960 has gone over budget by an average of 172%, this sounds impossible. But LA has a wild plan to make it work, and it might just be crazy enough to succeed. Let's be real. The Olympics have a serious money problem. Hosting the Games has become less of a sporting event and more of a financial disaster for many cities. Take Tokyo 2020, for example. Their original budget was around $7 billion. By the time everything was said and done, they spent over $13 billion. And that's not even counting the revenue losses from having no spectators due to COVID-19. Rio 2016, another financial nightmare. They spent nearly $13 billion as well, and now many of their venues sit empty, collecting dust. The Olympic Village, promised as future housing, stands partially abandoned. London, 2012. Despite being considered one of the more successful recent Olympics, they still went over budget by 76%. The Olympic Stadium alone cost $700 million to build, and another $400 million to convert for post-Games use. Montreal finally paid off its 1976 Olympic debt in 2006, 30 years after hosting. The pattern is painfully consistent. Barcelona spent $9.3 billion and took decades to recover. Athens' 2004 Olympics contributed to Greece's financial crisis. Beijing's Bird's Nest Stadium costs $11 million annually just to maintain. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They represent real communities dealing with real consequences. These cities hoped the Olympics would boost their economies, but instead, they were left with massive debts and abandoned infrastructure. Most host cities fall into what I call the Olympic infrastructure trap. They build massive new venues, construct athlete villages, and create infrastructure that serves a 3-week event perfectly, but has little use afterward. It's like buying a mansion for a weekend party. Impressive for the moment, but what do you do with it on Monday morning? The numbers paint a clear picture of the challenges ahead for Los Angeles. LA 28 will welcome 15,000 athletes competing in 40 sports across 800 events. The city expects 800,000 visitors during the Games, while global viewership will exceed 3 billion people. The organizing committee projects a total operating budget of $6.9 billion, making these Games among the most expensive sporting events ever staged. However, unlike previous Olympics that relied heavily on public funding, LA 28 plans to cover all costs through private sources, including broadcast rights, sponsorships, and ticket sales. They're expecting billions in revenue from sponsorships alone, and that's before we even talk about ticket sales and broadcasting rights. Some estimates suggest that corporate sponsorships could bring in upwards of $2.5 billion, which would go a long way toward covering costs without dipping into taxpayer dollars. So how does LA plan to avoid becoming the next Rio or Tokyo? Well, that's where LA's no-build strategy comes in. Instead of constructing massive new facilities that will likely go unused after the Games, they're planning to use what they've already got. This could save them billions in upfront costs. Now compare that to other recent host cities like Rio or Tokyo. They had to build entire neighborhoods from scratch just to accommodate the Games. That kind of spending adds up fast, and it's one of the main reasons so many host cities end up deep in debt after the Olympics are over. Los Angeles will utilize 28 existing venues spread across Southern California. Let me show you exactly how LA plans to use its existing venues and why this approach might just save the Olympics from itself. The opening and closing ceremonies of the LA 2028 Olympics will be held at 2 iconic venues: the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum and SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. The Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, which previously hosted the 1932 and 1984 Olympics, will once again play a central role. This historic venue, now a National Historic Landmark, recently underwent a $315 million renovation to modernize its facilities while preserving its classic architecture. It will become the first stadium to host the Summer Olympics 3 times, solidifying its place in Olympic history. SoFi Stadium, you might know it as the NFL's most expensive stadium ever built at a cost of $5.5 billion, is another key venue for LA 2028. Opened in 2020, this state-of-the-art facility features advanced infrastructure for major events, including cutting-edge broadcasting capabilities and sophisticated crowd management systems. Its unique indoor-outdoor design and massive video screen make it a premier location for large-scale events. Now, if you've ever been to downtown LA, you know the Crypto.com Arena, or as many still call it, the Staples Center. This place usually hosts Lakers games and concerts, but for the Olympics, it's transforming into a gymnastics paradise. They've already upgraded everything from the lighting to the locker rooms, ensuring it's ready for the global stage. Meanwhile, UCLA's campus will serve as the Olympic Village, housing thousands of athletes. With facilities like the Pauley Pavilion, which seats 13,800 and recently received a $136 million renovation, UCLA is well-equipped to host events like wrestling and judo. The campus also boasts multiple Olympic-sized pools and professional-grade training facilities, along with enough housing for 16,000 people. The USC's Galen Center will transform into a world-class fencing venue. Its adaptable space already hosts everything from basketball to esports tournaments, so it's well prepared to handle the unique needs of fencing competitions. Over at Santa Monica Beach, no major construction is needed. It's one of the most famous beaches in the world, and for beach volleyball, temporary stands will be set up just like they do for professional events throughout the year. Equestrian events will take place at the Temecula Equestrian Center. Spanning 242 acres, this facility is already fully operational with everything needed for horses and riders. There's no need to build new stables or tracks, which helps keep costs down. Then there's the Rose Bowl Stadium. With a seating capacity of 92,542, it has hosted everything from World Cup finals to Super Bowls. For LA 2028, it will add another chapter to its history by hosting the Olympic soccer finals. This existing venue approach saves an estimated $150 million in construction costs. More importantly, it eliminates the risk of creating white elephant facilities, expensive venues that serve little purpose after the games conclude. But it's not just about money. These places already know how to handle big crowds. They've got the staff, they've got the experience, and most importantly, they've got a purpose after the Olympics leave town. Think about it. When the games are done, SoFi goes back to football, Crypto.com Arena returns to basketball, and UCLA students get their dorms back. No white elephants, no abandoned stadiums, no waste. Okay, but let's talk about one thing everyone knows about LA, the traffic. If you've ever driven here during rush hour, or honestly at any hour, you know what I'm talking about. But here's where things get interesting. LA is using the Olympics as an excuse to completely overhaul its public transportation system. The city is investing billions into expanding its metro lines and bus routes so that by 2028, getting around might actually be easy. They're even planning about making certain areas car-free during the games. Now, whether or not that'll actually work is up for debate, but if they pull it off, it could change how people think about getting around in this car-centric city. The transportation plan includes multiple strategies, deploying 4,000 additional buses borrowed from neighboring cities, extending metro operating hours to 24/7 during the games, creating dedicated Olympic lanes on major thoroughfares, implementing a comprehensive ride-sharing and shuttle system, encouraging local businesses to adopt remote work policies. The current public transit system handles approximately 1.2 million rides daily. During the Olympics, that number must increase to 2.3 million rides per day. Metro officials plan to increase train frequency and add bus rapid transit lanes to handle this surge in ridership. The whole setup spans across Southern California, creating this connected network of venues that actually makes sense. It's not perfect, nothing ever is, but it's probably the most logical approach to hosting the Olympics we've seen in decades. And if we look back at history, specifically at LA's last Olympics in 1984, they actually made a profit. That was largely thanks to smart budgeting and sponsorship deals back then too. So there's reason to believe they could do it again. Of course, no plan is without risks, and there are plenty when it comes to hosting an event as massive as the Olympics. there's always a chance that things won't go according to plan, whether it's delays in finishing transportation projects or unexpected cost overruns. So, can LA really pull off a profitable Olympics? Time will tell, but one thing's for sure. They're taking a completely different approach than any host city before them. And if they succeed, it could change how cities think about hosting major global events forever. So, what do you think? Will this plan work? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. See you soon.